Hey, D checking in here. How you guys doing, man? I wanted to talk about the Drake and Kendrick Lamar battle and rap beef or whatever. You know what? Actually, I don't. I think that there are enough podcasters and enough people in hip hop media who are unnecessarily covering Drake and Kendrick Lamar. I mean, you can see it on your timeline. I'm sure you see it, on the podcast that you listen to on YouTube or the hip hop podcast that you listen to. Every single title they have to have Drake or Kendrick in the title to actually get people to, I guess, to excessively, watch the video. And my thing is, with all the great music that's coming out right now, we got a lot of dope efforts that are coming out. I don't think that we should be consuming the space or consuming our airtime with two MCs that or two artists that it's not really about the music at this point. They drop their music's what it is, but if they don't have any current music, how long can we regurgitate these topics? And do we really want to talk about these topics, or are these topics just put in the blogosphere or the algorithm just to get clicks and to get people to watch the video? I mean, we'll see even on this video, if I put their name in the title, what that actually does. I don't think that does anything progressive for hip hop. I don't think that does anything progressive for the music. I don't think that does anything progressive for hip hop media. I think that hip hop media, and myself included, needs to work harder, need to try harder to be more creative and to actually give light to the people who are making dope music. Some of the upcoming artists that haven't been covered yet that aren't getting light, and I also believe that, and this is part of the conversation as well. And I'm doing this even with the reviews. I want to give some of these albums some time to breathe before we really talk about them so that we can actually dissect them. I know that, and I've been a victim of this, a culprit of this, if you will. You rush to the online just so you can get the hot topic because you're scared that the algorithm's not going to be in your favor a couple of days later if you talk about an album. But at the end of the day, that might serve you and that might serve the algorithm, but that's not serving the music. And we wonder why our music isn't able to, last over a week or two. We need to slow down that process and really process the music. And for those artists that are giving us the hard work and the time and effort that they put into these efforts, I don't think it's fair for us to just sit there and listen to it for one day and not fully listen to it. And some of these albums and some of these podcasters, they're not listening to these albums at all, and you could tell when they're talking about them, right? I don't think it's fair to the artists, to the fans, or to the listeners to not really take in the efforts and do a real analysis on the music. Because imagine you being an artist and you're going out there putting in your work, and it's taking you months to put together an album, and you're really thinking about this thing, and you got people scanning through it just so they can run to the internet and talk about it on the same day. I just don't think that, I don't think that helps the music. And I think that some of these conversations that are centered around, utilizing Drake and Kendrick as clickbait, that's not helping hip hop either. These needless debates, it's not helping hip hop either. I mean, I think when for me there was a turning point when with the Nas and Jim Jones thing, and you had the young guy who's on some podcast talking about, Jim Jones is better than I, or whatever he said, or I'm paraphrasing it here. At the end of the day, it lets me know that anybody has been given a license to go up on these airwaves or a hip hop space or hip hop conversational space to say anything. And see, now we got to rewind it, right? It's like, what gives you this microphone to be able to disperse your opinion on that level? And I'm not trying to sound like, high and mighty. Everybody has their opinion, and I do think that everyone's opinion is valid. But I also think there's a prerequisite for being able to have certain hip hop conversations. I think that before you get into these debates or even have hip hop conversations, you need to see some video of, or even editorials of these individuals dispersing their hip hop knowledge. If you don't have knowledge of something, how can you actually go out on a huge platform and speak about something? If I don't know physics and I haven't studied physics, I'm not going to get in front of people and just say wild things about physics. I'm just not. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with sports or whatever. You have to have some level of credentials and you have to at least show people in some way, shape, or form that you know what you're talking about. And I think that where hip hop media has gone and what, wild takes and people using Drake and Kendrick for the algorithm and to say shocking things or whatever, it's gotten us to a place where anybody can get on a platform and call themselves hip hop with no level of credentials. We don't know anything about this person's hip hop background or how much hip hop they actually know or don't know. And when you go out there and say wild stuff with authority and it goes viral just to get people having a conversation or just to get people debating or get people irate, how does that help hip hop? How does that move hip hop forward? How does that move the craft forward? I'm gonna end on this. And I remember when me and Coop first started, what we were doing, our conversations, and we were doing album reviews during the pandemic because everybody was inside and music was coming out at a high rate, but it was coming out at a high level. And we got on our Nas conversations and we started doing deep dives into our hip hop knowledge and our knowledge of, that particular artist. And I remember when Coop interviewed Hit Boy, and Hit Boy told Coop that our conversations helped inspire him to be able to make the what was it, either the King's Disease, I think it was King's Disease 2 or Magic for Nas. You know what I mean? Some of the conversations that we had, and he was going able to go back to some of the records and things of that nature. And I was like, that's what we do this for. We have conversations to push music forward, push the culture forward. These not nonsensical conversations that are coming from people who we don't even know if they have any level of knowledge of hip hop and about hip hop. How does that move the culture forward? And again, I think, the listeners and the fans, you guys deserve way more. You guys deserve more from us, from, you know what I'm saying, from people who get behind the microphone and in front of the microphone to actually study the music before we actually talk about it, to actually think about our takes before we actually disperse them. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, this is about moving hip hop forward, moving culture forward, moving media forward, and, continuously putting Drake and Kendrick's name for views and likes and stuff and videos. That's not the move. But yes, hit like and subscribe, everybody, man. I want to hear you guys' feedback in the comment section. Am I tripping? Do you think that, hip hop media and journalists need to step it up, especially in the month of August right now? We got a lot of efforts to talk about, and these efforts are dope. All right. See you guys soon.